I'm your host, Grayson Brulte. Welcome to another episode of SAE Tomorrow Today, a show about emerging technology and trends in mobility with leaders and innovators who make it all happen. On today's episode, we're absolutely honored to be joined by Sanjay Chopra, co-founder and CEO Cognistics, and Leslie McKay, Senior Manager, Digital and Information Products, SAE International. On today's episode, we'll discuss how Cognistics and SAE are working together to digitize standards. Digital standards are the future. Digital standards will unlock cost savings. Digital standards will unlock efficiency. Digital standards will unlock the ability to build new products that we haven't even imagined today. Imagine being able to go on a chatbot and type in metals, type in bolt, type in plane part. That's all possible with digital standards. Digital standards will change the world just like the similar way to standards change the world. After all, standards make the world go round. Now we're just digitizing them. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Grayson.
Thank you, Grayson. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
It's great to have you here because partnerships are wonderful things. Partnerships unlock the world, and what Cognistics and SAE is doing with digital standards is the future. Everything's being powered by AI. And with your technology is making it searchable. If I need a certain type of bolt, certain type of material, I can put it in there and find it. That's the beauty of this large language models, which it's able to unlock. And SAE on your side, you've got one of the largest data sets. And so you're making training the models pretty easy there for Cognistics. Leslie, to kick things off in the level set, how is SAE and Cognistics working together to digitize standards?
SAE's traditionally been a publisher. So when we started looking seriously at how to provide standards in a format that was more interoperable and would actually extract the data from it, we reached out and found Cognistics because we needed to partner with someone who brought that expertise to the table. We knew that we needed to have the information that's locked up in PDFs today with standards be extractable, be accessible to people, but we weren't really sure the best way to do that. And working with Sanjay and his team, we came up with a way to actually use natural language processing to interpret and understand the standards and start identifying what is a requirement, what is a composition table, what are the different semantic elements that make up a standard that are important and we want to identify and categorize.
The standards are important. They make the world go round. Large language models, Sanjay, they're making the world go round. Now you turn the news on every day, it's AI this or LL this or neural net this. Let's get technical here for a minute, Sanjay. From a technical perspective, how are you working with SAE to digitize the standards? And then from an engineer standpoint, what are the benefits? How am I able to uncover those standards?
Great question, Grayson. So here is kind of what we do. There's three main aspects to it. So one aspect is obviously to work with SAE to get the standards AI ready and AI enabled. What I mean by that is, are the humans, the committees that write the standards, are they compiling the standard in the best possible way, where the tables can be readable by machine models, where the words are done in as clear a way as possible. So that's aspect number one. Aspect number two is what we call extractive AI, where we take and we pull the information from the models. And then we got to make sure that it's pretty accurate. We are able to do this with very high precision and recall or accuracy, so that if an engineer, like to your question, ask a question, where was this bolt sort of used within the standard? Show me all the sections that references this particular part or this particular material. We have to give them the right answers, because if we don't, and we've seen that even with Boeing recently, sort of even doors can fly off airplanes, if things are not done properly, and we are making airplanes here and not refrigerators. So accuracy and precision is very important.
You're right about that. So I'm going to geek out with you for a second here. So you say, get AI standards ready. I'm going to put on my finance hat. You have the CSV file, the Excel file, you have the Word doc file, and then you have the formatting. So is it taking these standards that have historically been housed in PDF files and reformatting them for a model that your algorithm can understand for the highest level of accuracy?
So what we do is actually take the underlying documents, any format it is, Word, PDF, Excel, and I've actually converted them into XML. And that XML format helps us a whole lot. Here is the section beginning, here is the section end, here is the table, here are various columns within the table, here is an engineering drawing, here are all the various things. So that way, the AI doesn't make any mistakes and doesn't miss anything. So that's one aspect of it. So AI has become to a point where, you could take a document, give it the document, it would be able to read it, and then you can ask a question, and it sort of obviously points to where the answer is coming from and summarizes the answer for you also. But with SAE, just to get it really precise, what we did was we used a lot of human annotation. So when the AI gave the answer back, we validated and checked all the answers. So that way we are very confident about the results that we are getting.
Leslie, this is interesting. So SAE is always evolving, and I've said this many times, standards make the world go round. And there's a new innovation or new technology, and the committee gets together and goes to balloting and introduces a new standard. For the new standards at a certain date, I won't ask for a date, but at a certain date, will they all be in the XML format ready to go as you start to lead into the future of digital standards?
So I do think so. I don't know if I would say all of them. I would say all that are appropriate. SAE is looking also at various authoring tools that we can use to author standards in an XML that can be automatically saved as an XML. So we're not doing a conversion to XML. So I do think that in the future, there's going to be more of that. There's a lot of companies out there that are looking at creating various types of authoring tools that are exporting in some kind of XML. So I do think that as not just SAE, but all standards development organizations, as we start to look to create this ecosystem of digital standards, we're going to need to have compatible standards in a compatible format so that they can be converted in a consistent manner to whether we're converting to a database or converting to whatever kind of digital format is the appropriate format for that type of standard.
Sanjay mentioned that after they're imported, if you want to use it, digitized or put into the database, they're reviewed by a human. Is that an individual that sits on that standard committee because they know every nuance or nut and bolt of that standard? Is that who's reviewing that?
So in the past, what we did was we used independent contractors that weren't necessarily associated with the committee. I do think that that's going to have to change eventually. So today, what we are doing is we are creating a digital version of the standard that matches the PDF verbatim. However, as I look to see how these standards are going to be used, I do think that the digital version of a standard needs to be interpreted the same way as the PDF is interpreted. But that does not mean it has to be verbatim to the PDF. I do see that in the future there may be a slight divergence that as we start to extract this information from the complete PDF, we might need to have some of the requirements, for example, written in a way that they can stand on their own. Whereas today in the PDF, they're not standing on their own. So there's a lot of what I call standard shorthand used to write things. They don't always use complete sentences or complete requirement statements. Some have outlines, and then it's not all standards, but some of them. So I do see that in the future, I do believe that we are going to need to have more committee involvement in the creation of standards and in the review of standards after they have been digitized. So for both.
Sanjay, today you digitize a standard. Let's just use a part on a vehicle, perhaps a door or a mirror, and you can go through and you look at the diameters, the materials that go into it. Is there a point as your system gets smarter and develops more where perhaps there could be the CAD drawings in there and somebody could search within the exact meaning of the CAD to get the specific and then perhaps export it out of the system? Do you see it kind of becoming interactive, kind of where very similar to where Google's trying to go with Gemini, where it's that two-way interactive? Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. AI is going to be at a point, it could read diagrams, it could read dimensions, it could read obviously the words, it could read audio files, video files. So if you have any unstructured data, is what we call it, sort of, any of this, we can read it and we can answer a question and then sort of give you the answer based on that question. So I absolutely see that. And I see that as a very powerful tool where the man and the machine, or human and person and the machine, is working together to give the best possible results to them. So sort of, where the engineers are used to the AI delivering this value, it's like, what we've used calculators and computers and now smartphones, and we've all become so much smarter with that. That's what AI will do in this field as well.
When you're developing your large language models, obviously SAE, and I'm going to harp on this a lot today, is a very large data set. Are you taking outside data to try and train their models? Because there's automotive data out there that's in the public domain. There's aerospace data in the public domain. Are you taking other data to try and perfect that model, or are you just building the model purely on the data that's being provided to you?
So great question. So what the model itself is trained on various data types and data sources. So it could be a corpus of documents that's complementary, like you were talking about. But when we actually fit that model and give the answer back to SAE, it's based on the corpus of documents that SAE is providing to the model. So the training set is wider, but the extraction set to get the exact answer back is very specific and gives us the best of both worlds.
Basically, Leslie, you're getting your own bespoke suit or your own bespoke product inside of this large language set, which is really great because I can see we'll get into this later, but I can see the possibilities of where SAE can go from unlocking the rich value that's there in the standards content. But before we get into that, I'd love to know, in your opinion, why are digital standards important?
So today I feel that standards are used at various parts of the process of creating a product. Let's just use an airplane, for example. They're used as part of the design. They're used in the development of the aircraft. They are used to certify that the plane meets FAA requirements. It is used to actually build and manufacture the parts. Just so many different ways that standards are used. And today, every user of standard has to use the PDF and extract what they need from that manually in some ways. You might have them actually printed out and highlighted with sticky notes. You might have people retyping portions of standards into various systems, but they have to do it over and over. And there's a lot of opportunity for error. There's a lot of opportunity to mistype or something like that. And really when they do that, they're using standards in a way they're not intended to be used because there is IP embedded in those standards. So I do feel that digital standards will kind of break that barrier as these companies start working towards wanting to have a digital twin of their product, wanting to have a digital thread of what has occurred to create that product to date. PDFs are a big barrier for that. Standards are so critical to the design and manufacture and so forth of products. And today, you cannot have a complete digital representation without having the information from standards to be digital as well.
Sanjay, you mentioned earlier unstructured data, and Lizzie brought up the digital aspect of it, and I'm putting on my big thinking hat now and looking to the future. Perhaps it's an aerospace engine or it's a drivetrain for a vehicle. Do we get to the point where you can start importing 3D scans, 3D models of that, and then those engineers can really start to dive deeper into the data?
Absolutely. So we could take 3D scans, 3D models, and think of it sort of from a virtual reality perspective, be able to look at it and say, hey, I want to change this part and I want to be able to use a lighter material, a stronger material for this part. Show me how it looks. Does this part now comply with all the standards as I'm visualizing this? So that environment for an engineer is really the future. So sort of, being able to see the engine you are designing, be immersive with it, yet be able to call on the side all the documents. Sort of, you have, if you want, sort of, scroll and get, here is the standard, let me read it. Can you find if there's any other standard I want to sort of also comply with? Show me this, show me that. So very comprehensively, like all the information is on my fingertips, and I can then do the design and make the best part possible. That makes us, the engineers, so much more efficient, especially with complex automobiles, spacecrafts, and aircraft engines, all critical components.
Leslie, I'm going big picture here. So obviously the Apple Vision Pro's been in the news a lot, and I don't know why. I started watching, I rewatched Ready Player One last night. So we're going to go down augmented reality world here. And this is, it's been in the industrial space. GE did a lot of work under Jeff Immelt when he was there around augmented reality. In a hypothetical world, this is a hypothetical world, do we get to the point where an engineer could have on an Apple Vision Pro or some sort of headset, and they can go through with that 3D model and really start to understand that part, and they could say, and she's going to come on, hey Siri, show rivets for Boeing aircraft, and the rivets start to come in and the engineer can model it? Is that somewhere that we could eventually go?
I definitely think that's somewhere we can go. I think that I've already seen workings towards even beyond that. Imagine not just the three-dimensional virtual representation of the product itself, but what about the product in the environment where it is? I've seen 3D representations, for example, of the manufacturing process that is used to create various things. And as you look at this three-dimensional model, you can start to identify how you can make that process more efficient, how you can have, for example, robots and humans working together in a more efficient manner than just humans would alone or robots would alone. So I do see that that as in the future, as I look into the future, it's not just the virtual reality of the products, but the products in the environment where they are could definitely be a possibility.
And actually, I'm going to tie this back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier. And that is why digitizing these standards, synthesizing them, having these components available, searchable, findable in a very precise manner becomes very important. Because then when I'm wearing my virtual reality sort of, goggle and designing the product, and I do a query or a search, I know I will get the right answer back. So that's the key part of it. So sort of these are building blocks we're putting in place for the future.
Think about the efficiency that this can unlock, the time savings this can unlock. Where do you see the greatest efficiency, Sanjay, being unlocked? Is it the ability to search? Is it the ability to interact? Or is it the ability to get the right answer quickly?
It's all of the above. So sort of, if you know that, hey, if I'm designing a part and I can, versus having to first download or find the right PDF file, then browse through it and read it and then highlight it or mark it and then read it again, cross-referencing it with some other document, going back to my CAD program and doing it versus what we're talking about now. So one aspect that we're handling right now is being able to sort of get rid of at least the standard searching part of it by digitizing it and making it available and making it searchable. Then sort of, integrating it with CAD CAM and 3D design software becomes the next component of it. So that's where we are heading. It's sort of, slow progress towards a grander vision.
Is there any technical limitations as long as it's digital of what could be imported into the model to enhance the overall product?
No, there's no technical limitation, but the certain pieces are very easy to do. Plain text and simple text is much easier. Tables are more complicated. Engineering drawings are even more complicated. And people don't label things the right way. I can put length as LEN, L, L prime. There are various different ways for me to mark. A could be this. I could show this as an alpha, show that as a delta. And it's not standard per se, the way I label a diagram or the way I sort of, annotate a different table. So those are the things that sort of, make the AI part of it a little bit more complicated. And that's where if we can train the users back and say, hey, if you do this, it'll be easy to digitize, and it can then sort of be much more readable with very little human checking and annotation possible, will really accelerate the whole process.
Leslie, Sanjay's clearly laid out the case from a technical perspective. Now the curiosity perspective steps in. Why did SAE make the decision to digitize the standards now? Was it the evolving market, or why was that decision made? Why now?
From what I understand, people have been talking about digital standards for quite some time, for several years now, but no one was really acting on it. So SAE did a voice of customer initiative and really started to dig in a little bit more to digital standards. And this is before COVID happened, and started to really get a lot more detail about what people really wanted to have out of a digital standard solution. And that is what kind of sparked the initiative that we have today that has become OnQue. We have digitized about 500 material standards and also some part standards, literally starting with nuts, bolts, and materials. We decided to do, I think whenever you look at, as companies start to look at a digitization plan, I think they need to think about what is the use case that they want to focus in on. Because just like we have thousands of standards, sometimes these companies have thousands of internal standards as well. And so you need to start working towards things that are going to be a demonstrable value, that are something that you can encapsulate into showing how it will be used. So what we decided to really hone in on, where we found some of the most value, was in being able to find and extract information from standard parts and materials. Companies are spending thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands, depending on how large the company is, on creating custom parts because they couldn't find if there's a standard part that they could just leverage. Whenever they use a standard part, it's less, they don't have to revalidate that part's going to do what it's supposed to do. It's already been validated as part of the standardization process. So every time they go and create, there's not just the effort of designing and creating the custom part, there's also the effort of validating that custom part will meet its intended use for whatever you're designing. So that is what we found is to be one of the most valuable areas where we could start off offering a digital version that will make it easier for customers to find standard parts and materials. But I hear of use cases every day that have varying levels of value to customers, and you never know what it's going to be. I was talking to an engineer the other day, few weeks ago, and he was talking about how he wanted to extract information from a materials standard that he could extract information to automatically program an oven to do a heat treatment process. So there's a lot of different ways you could slice and dice the information in standards to support different use cases. So my advice is look at what's going to be valuable for you and try to keep it contained enough that you can come up with something that's demonstrable and start doing incremental wins, because it can be overwhelming when you start looking at the library of standards that different companies are maintaining.
You're putting wins on the board from a cost savings perspective. We could start multiplying that across thousands of organizations. You can see the cost savings astronomically line up there. There's over 500 material standards in the database that have been digitized. What happens when a committee publishes an update to that standard? Do you re-upload the data, or what does that look like?
Yes, so we do have a process in place that we get notified and we can retranslate that data. So, ultimately, I'm hoping, years from now, I don't know, but ultimately, I'm hoping we can write the standards in a way that makes it a lot faster. But we do that now. So it will kick off a process to re-digitize that standard, and we'll keep a history of what's changed and so forth.
Sanjay, from an LLM standpoint, from your data set, when SAE publishes or pushes, whatever term you want to use, an update to that standard, How does that impact your model? Do you archive that old data? Do you weight it, or how do you do it so the engineer's getting that latest standard?
Well, the way we handle it is obviously if it's an update to an existing standard, we archive the old version of it, and now all the searches will happen on the new version of it. So that way, any engineer finding gets always the latest, greatest information all the time. In fact, I'm actually imagining a world where the committee, once they come up with a new version of a standard, an automated process sort of kicks on and says, we evaluated the changes they are suggesting, and we can give them feedback and say, hey, is this what you meant? Here is what you implied. Here is how you could make it a little bit clearer, a little bit better. The AI ingests it, provides the feedback. They modify it as it's appropriate, and then it gets pushed to the engineers to be able to ingest it all kind of seamlessly. That would be a great world.
It goes back to the key theme of this podcast, efficiency. You unlock a lot of efficiency and cost savings there. Leslie, I'm going back to me being me with the big picture here. Let's hypothetically fast forward. No timeline here. Fast forward at some point in the future. Could an engineer just have an AI chat bot and look up, let's call it lithium battery standard, the density of batteries, and then pull all that stuff so it will search across the variety of the standards? Perhaps they're trying to find something out, but they're not exactly sure, or they're just genuinely curious and they want to learn more.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely where I see things going. And I think from a technical perspective, yes, that's definitely possible to get there. I do think that there are some mental roadblocks that we've got to get through, some different ways in how people do business to open up more flexibility for searching for things. Today, a lot of standards development organizations, they publish a standard. There's a lot of information about that standard. But let's say it's a standard part. They're not going to tell you the best use for that part. They're going to give the standard part that you can look up its dimensions, you can look up its tensile strength and various properties, and you've got to decide if that's the appropriate part for your design. But I do see a lot of customers wanting to go to that next level of getting suggestions. You know, what's the best fit for this? So I do think as we look to the future, there's going to be a change in expectation of what people get from standards, that they might want more contextual information or more guidance from standards as to what's the best pieces to use based on whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Sanjay, that seems to be a theme in the general AI marketplace. Are you seeing that theme amongst your company as a whole from all of your clients?
We really are. And search has come a long way, sort of, what we call, because thanks to large language models and other things, sort of even in legal industry. So sort of standards is actually very similar to contracts, right? If you have a bunch of contracts and I want to be able to search, if I'm SAE, all my contracts with Boeing that were done for this particular thing that cover this aspect, when do they expire? It'll give the answer to me. If I'm doing the same thing from an HR perspective, Leslie wants to take the vacation, sort of, a little extended vacation. What is the HR policy for that? How do I apply for that? Or if I have a temp employee and I want to give him a raise or give him a bonus as an intern, how do I go about doing that? All these questions can be answered with the right corpus of documents, being able to being searchable, and then AI providing the answer. And it makes all of us so much more efficient.
It makes it more efficient. Leslie, I'm curious, what has the reaction been from engineers? Are you getting high fives, or what's that reaction been since SAE started to roll out the digital standards?
So I'm getting high fives from the engineers who are having to use these standards to do their jobs. I'm not quite there getting high fives from the engineers who are writing the standards because it's change. They've been writing standards as documents for years, longer than I've been in the professional world. And people don't like change, and they're so used to writing standards as documents and not thinking of them as digital entities. And when I talk about how we might need to change how we're writing standards to make a standard more machine readable, but still maintaining human readability, some of the authors just see that as, oh, that's just more work for me. so I think but I do think that as we educate more about the value to the actual consumers of standards, and when the authors hear how their standards are going to be used so much more robustly than they are today, I think that's what's going to start changing their mind.
They get a sense of pride at the end of the day.
Yes. I mean, who wants to write something that no one's reading? Who wants to spend their time creating something that no one, or they're using, but not using in a really efficient way, not able to really leverage the power from that. So I do think that as we get more education, people are going to see that, oh, well, I might need to change this, and it might be new for a while, but it will become a habit. It will become ingrained, and it will be the new way. It won't be new one day. It'll be what people are used to, and people will be doing it in the realization that standards are going to be now much more usable for the actual consumers of standards.
Digital standards will become the de facto standards. We go more and more society from a digital perspective. Leslie, in your opinion, what does the future of digital standards look like? Does it become the must-have tool for every engineer embarking on a career?
So I think that different types of standards will have different digital formats. There's some standards that might be best digitized as a list of requirements that you can pull into a PLM system. Another type of standard might make sense to be a SysML model that you can then incorporate into a larger SysML model. So I think it depends on the type of standard and what its best digital format will be. And that will kind of define the future. So when I think of the future, one thing I think is common, regardless of what a digital standard equates to, I do think that engineers are going to want to access standards libraries through the tools that they are using today. So if you're using an ecosystem of a particular PLM vendor, I can see where people are going to want to leverage and access the SAE library or the ASTM library directly from that ecosystem. And maybe it's just the standards library, and it goes across because now we've got all these different links between our standards and references between our standards, so that when I extract a standard, I want to then pull not only the requirements from that standard, but everything I need from every standard that's linked to it. So that's how I see a lot of things changing over the years. I have had conversations with people who, there's this organization, I'm not sure the name off the top of my head, but they created a SysML version of a standard. It wasn't an SAE standard. It was another SEO standard. And at first, people were using both the PDF and the model. And over time, they found that they weren't referencing the PDF at all anymore. And they might not even revise the PDF the next time the standard is revised. They may revise only the model and not even keep the PDF up to date. And I think that will be the future, that ultimately the digital standard is going to replace the PDF. Just like discs, like discs have replaced videotape, and now I get my music streaming instead of listening to it on a cassette tape or an 8-track. I do think it's going to be the next version.
It is the next version. Sanjay, we know what's next. With no surprise, AI's next. In your opinion, sir, what does the future of AI look like?
Wow. So AI has come a long way. Sort of, of course, there's few aspects of AI that have actually significantly improved in the recent few years. One is computer vision, our ability to see, cars' ability to drive themselves. Tesla is a unimodal system that completely relies on computer vision to be able to do that. Large language models have come a long way. Our ability to generate language. Who could have known AI tool could write language so beautifully? Even if it's erratic, it's so convincing that it's hey, this has to be accurate from that perspective. So there are obviously caveats around all these things. And then also from a robotics perspective, we've come a long way to be able to lift, move things, and be able to go places where it's very hard for humans to do that. And where I see this going in the future is these various pieces coming together and making a huge impact. So sort of, where you are able to talk to the car, it completely understands you. It can even tell you a little story or play the best music while it's driving itself, where, the standards that you have and the engineering designs you're doing is all coming together very nicely. Kind of like, some science fiction movies and shows like Star Trek and other things where you are able to pull from various pieces and be able to drive it. I think the base components are there, and kind of that's where AI is sort of going. And we don't even think about it anymore. And you said it, hey, Siri, do this for me, or hey, Alexa, can you do that for me? And it does it. And the word error rate, the ability for a computer to understand humans, is now actually better than humans understanding humans. And it's language is not a barrier there. Sort of if I'm speaking in English and I switch to Spanish or Hindi or French for that matter, computers will get me. You guys might not.
But we have an AI translator app for that, so I'm not
There you go.
I'm not worried. It's very clear that AI is going to transform the world. It's going to impact every industry across the world, and we're merely just getting started. And I really can't wait to see where the future of the Cognistics and SAE partnerships goes, because it's going to unlock a tremendous amount of value, efficiency, and cost savings. Leslie, Sanjay, as we look to wrap up this insightful conversation, what would you like our listeners to take away with them today? And we'll start with you, Sanjay, please.
So I would say don't be afraid of AI. We, especially with SAE and the automotive industry, the aerospace industry, the guardrails are already in place. That's why you have standards. That's why you have checks and balances. Use it to make your tasks and your lives as efficient as possible. Use the tools. Don't fight the tools. Sort of digitize the standards. Make your processes much more efficient and reap the benefits, because I think cost is also going to be very important going forward for organizations to be able to deliver efficiently, and AI can surely help you get there.
Use the tools, do not fight the tools. That's a wonderful line. And to close us out, Leslie, what would you like our listeners to take away with them today?
Educate yourself more on what digital standards can really do. Really think about how you are creating products today and how having digital standards can help make that more efficient. There's so many initiatives right now in digital transformation, both within government organizations and within the corporate world. And I think a lot of people haven't really stopped to think, how are standards going to fit into these initiatives? And so start thinking about that. Start thinking about how you want standards to start fitting into that, because today is when you need to make that clear so that we make sure that we can meet those use cases tomorrow.
Lean in, embrace the future. Today is tomorrow. Tomorrow is today. The future is AI. Sanjay, Leslie, thank you so much for coming on SAE Tomorrow Today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to SAE Tomorrow Today. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to hear more, please kindly rate, review, and let us know what topics you'd like for us to explore next. Be sure to join us next week when we hear from Dr. Matt Markle, CEO of Spartan Radar, as he discusses Spartan's groundbreaking sensor perception software and the current state of the radar market.
SAE International makes no representations as to the accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. The information and opinions are for general information only. SAE International does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast.